You sort your trash. Plastic goes in blue, paper in green. You've been doing this for years, maybe decades. But here's the thing. If we've been saving the planet this whole time, why is there more plastic, not less? We started mass recycling back in the 90s. 30 years went by. The tech got better. Bins popped up on every corner. And still the global plastic recycling rate is about 9%. 9 out of 100. In the US, it's even worse, around 5%. One of the lowest among affluent countries. You know the symbol? 3 arrows in a triangle. The recycling logo. You see it on every plastic bottle, every plastic container. It looks something like an eco badge, a little promise that this plastic thing will come back as something new. But here is the twist. That logo wasn't invented by Greenpeace. It came from the oil industry by design. So what's going on? Is the tech not good enough? No, the tech works. They just don't use it because it doesn't pay. Recycled plastic costs hundreds of dollars more per ton than brand new plastic. Companies look at the math and walk away. So who came up with this 3-arrow symbol? Let's walk the chain. From the moment oil companies realized they had a PR disaster to right now, when recycling turned into a business myth. It's the late 60s. America is waking up. Smog, pollution, oil spills, people snap. On the first Earth Day in 1970, activists drag piles of cans and dump them in front of Coca-Cola's office. Meanwhile, Congress is debating something scary for the industry: a ban on single-use beverage containers. In 1972, Oregon passes the bottle bill, 5-cent deposit per bottle, the first law on its kind. Oil and plastic producers see where this is heading. Their entire business model is suddenly on the line. Their response shows up in 1988. 3 arrows, 7 numbers. Inside these arrows, the numbers 1 through 7 in a neat little triangle. Officially, it's just a resin code to help with sorting. That sounds harmless, right? But behind it sits the Plastic Bottle Institute, an industry group created by the same oil giants, Exxon, BP and friends. They don't stop at a symbol. Starting in 1989, they push hard to pass new laws. The goal? Make these codes mandatory. By the early 90s, 39 states adopt labeling rules. 36 of them explicitly require those 3 chasing arrows, the mark you see on almost every plastic container today. It seems convenient for recycling, but in reality, it's armor. Because once plastic is marked for recycling, how do you ban it? Here's the twist. Local recyclers and environmental groups were against this system from day one. Why, you ask? They knew exactly what would happen. You slap arrows on anything, and people assume that plastic can be recycled. That confusion was baked in, and the industry knew it. In 1994, the Society of the Plastics Industry officially admits it. Yes, the codes confuse people. Yes, people read the arrows as a promise. By then, laws are in place in dozens of states. The symbol is locked in. So ask yourself, doesn't that sound like an accident? Let's talk about those numbers, 1 through 7. You'd think there's some kind of recycling level. They're not. They're just resin types, the chemical recipe. It has nothing to do with whether your city will actually accept that item for recycling. In simple terms, 1 is PET, polyethylene. 2 is high-density polyethylene. That's it. The triangle doesn't say this will get a second life. It just quietly labels what it's made of. But the 3 arrows suggest the opposite. And here's the reality. Only types 1 and 2 are widely accepted in real systems. 3 through 7 almost never make the cut. The tech to deal with the rest doesn't scale or doesn't make money. So why give all 7 to same green-looking symbol? That's where the circus starts. In 1992, the Federal Trade Commission drops a rule. You can call a product recyclable if at least 1% of it actually gets recycled. 1%. After that, companies go wild. Codes and arrows on everything. On packages that have no real path to being recycled at all. Still legal. In 1994, the National Recycling Coalition flags another issue. Even within the same number, plastic formulas can clash. Not all tools are the same. So even the small slice that's recyclable on paper is fractured in practice. The cracks are obvious. The industry sees them and shrugs because the setup is doing its job. Meanwhile, laws in 36 states still lock in the chasing arrows. Attempts around 2013 to strip the arrows and use a plain triangle don't survive. Most states block it. So back to the question from chapter 1. Does that sound like an accident? This is not confusion. This is 30 years of managed ignorance. And even if we stick to types 1 and 2, the good plastics, why are they barely recycled? The problem isn't the science, it's the profit. For decades you've been trained to feel personally guilty about every bottle you toss, while the industry just swapped symbols. This isn't a glitch. It's a business model. You get the illusion of choice, the illusion of responsibility, while the system that creates the waste never has to change. That same trick, making individuals feel like the problem, shows up way beyond recycling. If you want the full map of these traps and psychological tricks used to pull money and attention out of you, I break it all down in detail in the Blueprint newsletter. It's your way to step off the treadmill in a game you never designed. Check out the link in the description. Subscribe if you want the whole picture. It's 100% free. Now let's talk about the math that quietly kills recycling. In 2015, Coca-Cola promises by 2025 half its packaging will come from recycled materials. That promise doesn't land. More than 10 years later, here's why. Recycled PET costs roughly $750 to $800 more per ton than virgin plastic. $750 per ton. Every ton is a loss. So every time a company chooses recycled plastic, it chooses to lose money. You don't need an MBA to predict what they'll choose. Where does that price gap come from? China floods the market with massive plastic factories. Overproduction slams prices down until brand new plastic is cheaper than some bottled water. Remember that 9% global recycling figure? In 2018, we almost reached it. Then everything broke. China launched the National Sword Policy, a ban on importing dirty foreign plastic. Before that, Western countries shipped mountains of plastic trash to China and called it recycled. The moment it left the port, tons of plastic sail away on paper and vanish from the stats. After the ban, that stream hits a wall. Where does it go? Landfills or new export routes to poorer countries that can handle it? I'll talk about this later. There, it's burned in open fields. When that door closes, the West loses its dumping ground. Domestic infrastructure was never built for the real volume. Recycling rates fall from around 9% to about 5%. So here is the question. Where do you think all that recycled plastic you sorted before 2018 actually ended up? It does look a lot like simple corporate greed, don't you think? In reality, the entire structure has collapsed. Recycling is barely alive, even for types 1 and 2. If recycling is economically dead, what actually happens to the plastic from your blue bin? Before 2018 it was simple. Loaded onto ships, sent to China, stamped as recycled in the books. On paper, mission accomplished. In real life, just pushed out of sight. After National Sword, that dome also slams shut. The flow shifts. Plastic goes to landfills or onto new ships headed to poorer countries. The US still exports over 1 million tons of plastic waste a year to Malaysia, Indonesia, and countries across Africa. And what happens there? A lot of it is burned in fields, open fires, toxic smoke.
Contained the blaze to a mound of green waste within the landfill on Saturday, hence the smell.
That's where your responsibly sorted container ends up. The old scheme is exposed. The industry needs new language. Enter a new buzzword: chemical recycling. It sure sounds futuristic. Break plastic down to molecules, rebuild it into something pure and new. Investors love it. Money pours in. But most of these plans turn plastic into fuel to be burned, not back into new plastic, into fuel. Same smoke, new marketing. Meanwhile, about 90% of plastic was never designed for traditional recycling in the first place. It was built for one use and a long, quiet death. So who wins in this story? The chemical companies pumping out virgin plastic. They've had a hand on the coding system since day one through the industry groups. Because plastic is just another way to sell oil and gas. And here's the part that matters most. Over 90% of plastic is designed for single use, not as a loop, as trash. That's the business model. To grow sales, you grow the pile of disposable stuff. Now roll back the tape. When did this really start? Remember that crying Indian ad? Tear rolls down his cheek while people throw litter around him. The message is simple. You are the problem, not the companies making billions flooding the world with trash. The individual takes the blame. More than 50 years later, you're still doing the same thing, sorting, trying, feeling guilty about every cup and every bottle. But the system barely moves. Why? Because laws in 36 states still protect that simple system. They still block basic reforms. The industry is covered by laws it wrote for itself. Only in 2024, California finally stepped in and said, you can use the arrows if the product isn't actually recycled. First state in over 30 years to call the bluff. So here's the real story. The problem was never how carefully you sort your trash. The problem is that the single-use plastic business model only works if recycling doesn't. It felt like we were the ones messing up, but the truth is we've been played for a half a century. The technology exists. What's missing is the courage to go after the single-use plastic business model. Instead of lecturing people about their trash, for 50 years they sold you guilt. Now you know who should actually feel it. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next video.